After Trump applies pressure, Wall Street giant moves into Panama. An investor group led by BlackRock will acquire 2 ports near the Panama Canal that are owned by C.K. Hutchinson and have been the subject of a dispute between Trump and Panama. President Trump had been hammering Panama for weeks over its most valuable asset, the Panama Canal, saying without evidence that China, of course, see, they throw in the without evidence. You can't just say Trump has been saying it. You have to say that he's been saying it without evidence. Like, there is evidence of it, but they said, New York Times says Trump has been saying without evidence that China operated the waterway. There seemed to be no way Panama could get Washington off its back. On Tuesday, Wall Street intervened. An investment group led by BlackRock, a giant American asset manager, said it had agreed to buy 2 ports in the had agreed to buy 2 ports in Panama owned by a Hong Kong company that had become the focus of the tensions between Panama, and they call him Mr. Trump. And he's the president. Can you call him President Trump? The New York Times says become the focus of tensions between Panama and Mr. Trump. Who's this fucking person writing this thing? Peter Evis and Maureen Farrell. So you had to have 2 people write an article. You're so inept you can't even write your own article. Dumbasses. All right. So BlackRock will buy the ports which sit at either end of the canal. Over 40 others from Hong Kong conglomerate C.K. Hutchinson BlackRock will buy the ports which sit at either end of the canal, and over 40 others from Hong Kong conglomerate. 40 others from the Panama Canal? Shit. Though, see, they go with the Mr. Trump again. You disrespectful pricks. What are you doing? Like, you expect to think you're unbiased and you're calling the president Mr. Trump? Though President Trump, I'll spell check them or autocorrect them. Though President Trump has other complaints about the canal, it charges too much. He contends the deal greatly relieves pressure on Panama. Political analysis said, quote, it's an elegant off-ramp for what looked like to be an unsolvable crisis, said Benjamin Geeden, director of the Latin America program at the Wilson Center. The deal is also an indication of the spoils available to American companies as the Trump administration pursues its America First foreign policy. And for some historians, it brings up memories of the outsized power that Wall Street banks have had in Latin America. It's not just the Wall Street banks, it's also DC and the CIA cowboys. Quote, where are the Panamanian voices here, said Peter James Hudson, an associate professor at the University of British Columbia and the author of Bankers and Empire, How Wall Street Colonialized the Caribbean. I mean, seriously, James, out of all the things that the international bankers did, you care about the Caribbean? Like, do you know what bankers did for the Nazis, for Stalin, for the Bolshevik Revolution, and you care about the fucking Caribbean? Anyway, they are completely lost. And by the way, that's also something we're going to talk about at length in the Forbidden Book Society, is what exactly the international bankers did for the Bolshevik Revolution and for the Nazis, because definitely can't talk about that on YouTube, but this is on the next, so we can talk about whatever the fuck we want. So get on over there if you want to have your mind blown, because I know 99% of people have no idea where the money came from for the Nazis and for the Bolshevik Revolution. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. So anyway, President Jose Raul Molino of Panama appeared to downplay the geopolitical implications of the proposed acquisition, describing the deal as in a social media post as a, quote, global transaction because private companies motivated by mutual interests. For BlackRock, it's the latest sign of its desire to expand beyond what it is historically been known for, managing trillions of dollars for everyday investors in stock and bond funds. I mean, it's not everyday investors. It's also freaking government pensions and giant insurance company portfolios. So it's a stretch. And they also are the emergency manager for the Fed. When the Fed has to inject money into the economy, they have BlackRock come on over and do the money injecting for them, because BlackRock knows how to do that more than the Fed knows how to do that. So BlackRock is buying the ports through Global Infrastructure Partners, an investment firm it bought last year for almost $13 billion that owns and operates many ports, airports, and data centers. The conversations between the BlackRock-led consortium and executives at C.K. Hutchinson, which is owned by the Lee family, one of the one of Asia's wealthiest, began a few weeks ago, according to a person familiar with the decisions or discussions. Wonder if any relation to Lindy Lee. She also has a rich real estate family. The Lee family believed it was under political pressure to exit the port business, particularly its holdings in Panama Canal. The person said, Panama Canal provides a crucial shortcut connecting the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Vessels need to stop, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I assume people know where the Panama Canal is. I'll show you quick if you don't know where it is and show you how much distance it saves on a trip. Here. Map of Panama Canal versus not using route. So here we go. This is a good map. So first, the North America, South America trip. So you could see this is where it is. It's like, what was that 5,200 miles versus 19,000 miles if you were not to use it. And then we got what it looks like from China to New York with and without it. So 19,000 kilometers to 30,000 kilometers. So adds an extra 33%. And the water is extremely dangerous over here. I forgot what they call it. What's the waterway near the bottom of South America? What the hell is it? Dangerous waterway at bottom of South America. The Drake Passage, I guess I thought it was a different name than that, but anyway, I know that that journey is the Cape Horn, I think is what it's called, right? Cape Horn, South America's Cape Horn. Yeah, whatever, that's it. But anyway, super dangerous route, much longer. So infinitely bad if we did not have the Panama Canal. Anyway, back to the article and boom. All right, so where were we? The deal adds BlackRock's largest infrastructure. This is BlackRock's largest infrastructure deal ever. It is doing the deal with a partner known as Terminal Investment Limited, which operates ports served by the world's largest container shipping company, Mediterranean Shipping. You know, I'm just thinking, I wonder, so BlackRock was super excited to get in on the Ukraine rebuild, and I don't know what kind of pressure they're potentially putting on the administration to not let the war end, or not the administration, but the powers that be to stop the war from ending. But I wonder if Trump said, like, hey, if you stop your bullshit with trying to keep this war going, we will let you get in on this Panama Canal infrastructure project and offset what you stood to gain from the Ukraine rebuild. So that's possible. But anyway, the deal also shows how, is this the right spot? Where was I? Deal adds to the terminal investments portfolio of ports in Europe, Latin America. In addition to operating the ports in Panama Canal, buyers were particularly interested in CK Hutchison ports in Asia. These world-class ports facilitate global growth, Mr. Fink said in a statement. This deal also shows just how central Mr. Oglisi has become to BlackRock. After BlackRock acquired Global Institute Partners, GIP, Mr. Oglisi became the firm's largest individual shareholder. He separately sits on the board of Terminal Investment Limited. So he is doing well for himself, Mr. Oglisi. Quote, BlackRock couldn't have done it without the GIP, and GIP without BlackRock, said Ralph Schlosstein, chairman emeritus of the investment bank Evercore and co-founder of BlackRock. Co-founder of BlackRock. That is somebody to look into. I did not know that. I've never heard the name Ralph Schlosstein before, but interesting. Noted. Quote, the connectivity that Larry has with the public sector leaders around the globe and the capabilities that Bayo brings to the table are a compelling combination. The Trump administration's support of the BlackRock-led deal to buy these ports comes after Mr. Fink and the firm has been the target of many conservative lawmakers and politicians for his past comments urging corporations to consider environmental, social, and governance, or ESG goals. More recently, and particularly in recent weeks, BlackRock has stepped back from ESG and diversity initiatives. CK Hutchison is part of the conglomerate funded by Li Ka-shing, who was Hong Kong's richest man at one point. Mr. Li retired in 2018 and handed over the control to his son, Victor Li. Mr. Trump has also taken aim at the fees that the Panama Canal charges. Got it. And yeah, so we get the point. So, I mean, sounds like this is a way to use corporate America rather than the government side of America to slowly start getting more control over the Panama Canal, because there's all sorts of hurdles you have to go through if you try to do this with the government, because then it becomes a law thing where Congress has to get involved, and then, you know, like, what are you going to use military force? So instead of the military force of the United States, they use the money force of Wall Street. So whatever, I dig it. If Trump's comfortable with it, then I'm comfortable. Like, I'm sure we're in a net better position than we were before this happening, because, you know, we hate BlackRock. We don't trust BlackRock. But I mean, if BlackRock is at least pretending like they're interested in America and not globalist bullshit, then yeah, I can play ball. I could be down. So before we go to a completely different topic, I did have something up that I wanted to read that like really hammers home the point of how much control BlackRock and State Street have. So let's see. The big three, meaning BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, collectively hold a median stake of 22% in the S&P 500 companies, which represents a proportion of 25% of the votes cast at the annual meetings of these companies. So the firms control roughly 80% out of about $4 trillion in total ETF assets. So it's like a three-headed monopoly of the ETF control, or the equity control in America. So there was significant situations which index funds votes could determine whether a vote passes or not for proxy contests and environmental social governance matters, and even where the votes are not close. The outcome of the votes can play an important part in influencing the behavior of corporate managers. So, what was it? Bloomer found that. Yeah, so point with that is that they just had a shit ton of influence over corporate America, and so you could expect corporate America to stop being as crazy as they've been with the woke stuff. You could expect to stop seeing people getting fired for weird things like misgendering people or using microaggressions, whatever. So that is a overall positive thing. Both stories there, very positive stories. I officially opened up the Forbidden Book Society on Monect, on the Circles tab in Monect. So when I read, I say it's like kind of like gold mining, where a lot of the stuff is nonsense. You don't really need to hear it, but then there's just like these nuggets of like craziness within a lot of books, but then specifically books that I usually read. So I've read like 1,000 books over the last 2 years, and just want a place where I could exclusively share this stuff with people who want to know about this stuff, and people who are curious, who want to know how the world works. So I just want to like build a club of sharp, curious people, and that's what we're doing there. So if you are interested in something like that, check out the Forbidden Book Society on Monect Circles.